Thank you, Alex. You've certainly set the scene, which I would like to follow on from, making the point that we have been betrayed by our elected representatives. They have been elected to a position of trust to primarily represent us, not to act as facilitators for vested interests in the construction industry and in the government agency bureaucracies. We've been treated to a whole lot of nonsense in terms of an EIS where the predetermined outcome they require has been presented at a meeting at Pennant Hills, which the Pennant Hills Civic Trust organised on the 10th of May last year. Greg Smith was present, and at that meeting, three of us exposed the 6 representatives from the New South Wales Department of Transport who are responsible, the team responsible for the imposition of this, potentially very destructive project on our community. Now, I subsequently wrote a report on that for Greg Smith, who's been a long-standing acquaintance of mine for about 10 years or more. Greg then flicked it on to Gladys Berejiklian, the Transport Minister, and Greg has made it quite clear that he's bound by the rules of cabinet solidarity. He's unable to represent us on these issues, which I regard, and I'm sure more of you do too, as a betrayal of the trust that we put in him when we've elected him to represent our community. We face an enormous representation crisis in this community. John mentioned the word bulldozer. We are certainly being taken advantage of because we tend to be dozy till things turn up at our doorstep, and we've been certainly fed a load of bull as far as this ETTT project is concerned. It's basically the second point I'd like to make, and that is the main point, and that is a experiment in trying to get freight trains through more quickly to save a few hours, and using the mantra of getting 200,000 trucks off the road. And the way that's been presented, it indicates that possibly 200,000 trucks per year will be removed from the roads. Main roads, that is, that don't go around the council roads, of course. Now, the main arterial road I'm referring to. Now, when we look closely at the EIS, we find that 200,000 truck movements, not trucks themselves, but truck movements, is spread over a 15-year period. So the number of truck movements that are going to actually be reduced from this project is hardly worthwhile talking about. But that's been used as the mantra to justify the project. Now, as Alex has said, the only thing you can do about this is to work as much as possible behind the scenes to maximise the embarrassment to the government agencies of imposing this ill-conceived project upon us that's really has its origins in a series of thought bubbles and good ideas to try and facilitate more speedy exit of freight from Sydney to look after freight movement interests, not community interests. Community interests are totally overridden. There's an enormous body of legislation in place to correct, or to protect, I should say, community interests. And the economic arguments are always to the fore. There's any number of consultants who will write a report for a fee that will justify these projects from an economic point of view on the basis of costing, which is highly probable that will get out of hand. For the Southern Freight Link, it was supposed to take 2 years to build. It took 4 years. It was supposed to cost $350 million. It cost over $1 billion. Now, the same thing is likely to happen here, because this project has to proceed through what's called the Beecroft Bank, which is the area that runs just north of Beecroft Station in front of us, through to Pennant Hill, which is an area of about 3 kilometres, or a distance of about 3 kilometres. And through that, there is a landslip area, which poses all sorts of potential geotechnical problems. Also, it's the second steepest mainline road in the state, and it runs up a 40-degree curve. That's the main reason for the rail swirl that we get, because the normal trains carrying up to flat cars, I should say, not trains, but flat cars carrying up to 21, 22 tonnes don't have to have steering axles. The coal trains that spread all the pollution, they have to have steering axles because their axle load capacity is around 25 tonnes. So we don't get as much rail squeal from them, but what we do get is all the pollution from the coal dust. Now, there was an article on Catalyst on Thursday night you may have seen, that exposed the fine particulate problem with dust, with coal dust, which is now contaminating areas up around Newcastle and into the Hunter Valley. We're copping it down here too as these coal trains go through, because they wet the coal before it leaves the coalfield area. By the time it reaches here, that is all dried out. Dust here.